Today's episode is brought to you by the Daily Gardener Friday newsletter. You can sign up for the newsletter over at thedailygardener.org. Hi there, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, a podcast about botanical history and literature. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and today is February 22nd. Today in garden history, we celebrate the birthday of Pehr Loefling, who was born on this day in 1756. He was a handsome and tall Swedish botanist. Pehr met Carl Linnaeus at the University of Uppsala, where Carl was his professor. And early on, Carl called Pehr his most beloved pupil, and he also started calling Pehr the vulture. Carl came up with that little nickname after watching Pehr and his intuitive way of finding plants and observing the most minute details of his plant specimens. But after graduating, Carl Linnaeus recommended Pehr Loefling for an opportunity in Madrid. And so Pehr ended up going there. He got the job. He ended up learning Spanish, and he was soon called Pedro by his friends. And in short order, Pehr joined a Royal Spanish expedition to South America. His mission was to find and learn about an improved cinnamon species. Well, 2 years into the trip, Pehr was botanizing in Venezuela when he died of malaria on the banks of the Caroni River, and he was buried beneath an orange tree. He was 27 years old. By the end of the year, over half of the expedition's men would be dead from disease, compounded by hunger and fatigue. When Linnaeus got the news about Pehr, he wrote to a friend, "The great vulture is dead." And today we celebrate the birthday of William Barnes, the English polymath, writer, and inventor. He was born on this day, February 22nd, in 1801. William wrote over 800 poems, and he was familiar with over 70 different languages. When he was on his deathbed, he was visited by the English writers Thomas Hardy and Edmund Gosse. Edmund later wrote that William was dying as picturesquely as he lived. William wrote, "We found him in bed in his study, his face turned to the window, where the light came streaming in through flowering plants, his brown books on all sides of him, save one, the wall behind him being hung with an old green tapestry." Any gardener who loves their garden has likely thought about the day that they'll have to say goodbye. Well, William wrote about that moment in a little poem that he called "To a Garden on Leaving It," and I thought I'd read a little excerpt for you today. So here's "To a Garden on Leaving It" by William Barnes. Sweet garden, peaceful spot, no more in thee shall I ever while away the sunny hour. Farewell each blooming shrub and lofty tree. Farewell the mossy path and nodding flower. I shall not hear again from yonder bower the song of birds or humming of the bee, nor listen to the waterfall, nor see the clouds float on behind the lofty tower. My eyes no more may see this peaceful scene, but still, sweet spot, wherever I may be, my love-led soul will wander back to thee. And today we celebrate the birthday of Adolph G. Rosengarten Sr. He was an American businessman, and he was born on this day in 1870. His family pharmaceutical company would become part of Merck in the 1920s. But back in 1913, Adolph and his wife Christine wanted to escape the heat of Philadelphia and find a place suitable for a country home. So they settled on a piece of land in Wayne, Pennsylvania. After 1924, the family lived there year-round, and Adolph named the estate Chanticleer. It was a little tongue-in-cheek nod to Chanticleer in William Makepeace Thackeray's 1855 book called The Newcomes, where the estate was quote, mortgaged up to the castle windows. And so Adolph identified with that. He always said he sympathized with the fictional Chanticleer owner from the novel. Well, the etymology of the word Chanticleer means rooster, and that's why there are so many rooster motifs at Chanticleer. Well, today, Chanticleer is a public garden. It's among the best gardens in the United States. The grounds occupy 35 of the 50 acres that are owned by a foundation. The garden opened to the public in 1993, and the job of maintaining and designing Chanticleer now falls to 7 full-time horticulturists who strive to preserve and improve a garden that's been called America's most romantic and creative garden. And today is the birthday of the American writer and journalist Phyllis Theroux, who was born on this day in 1939. Phyllis grew up in San Francisco following World War II, and she once wrote, "I think this is what hooks one to gardening. It's the closest one can come to being present at creation." It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, The Flower Hunter by Lucy Hunter. This book came out in late 2021, and the subtitle is Seasonal Flowers Inspired by Nature and Gathered from the Garden. Lucy Hunter is a floral whisperer. She knows how to create beauty, true artistic, Raphaelian, dreamy, sumptuous beauty. And for a first book, Lucy has given gardeners quite a gift. Gardeners love nothing better than chatting with other gardeners and seeing their gardens. We love to ask, how do you do this? Why do you grow that? What do you do with this flower? Well, in The Flower Hunter, Lucy welcomes us to a year in her North Wales garden. And trust me, you want to see what Lucy is doing with the beauty that she finds in her own backyard. Lucy is generous with her step-by-step tutorials, and she inspires with her essays on working with natural elements. She's funny, too, and her photography is top of the top. Even if you feel no match for Lucy's level of mastery, Lucy manages to help connect the reader to the well of creativity, the tiny spark of inspiration that each of us possesses. As gardeners, we see the beauty in the everyday. We know how to find peace in nature. And Lucy extends that serenity and joy, and she puts it to work in creating more than just exquisite floral arrangements. She also demonstrates other projects, like drying flowers for a fall wreath, making natural dyes, easier than you think, and creating your own journal. More fun than you think. A really awesome project. Now, just a little bit about Lucy. She has 2 decades of floral, photography, and landscape design experience. She's a naturalist at heart. She is an edge softener, an evocateur, a seasonal transition lover, a rose lover and guru, a believer in potential, and a pathfinder to your own creative voice. You'd better believe that her Instagram is amazing, so make sure to check that out. You can follow her at Lucy the Flower Hunter, and you can also get this book. This book is 208 pages of Lucy Hunter doing what Lucy Hunter does best: florals, beauty, softness, nature, and sparks. You can get a copy of The Flower Hunter by Lucy Hunter, great name, and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for $25. Really good book. Finally, today's Botanic Spark features Edna St. Vincent Millay, who was born on this day in 1892. She was an American lyrical poet and playwright, and many gardeners know Edna's verses, believe it or not. I'm going to say these, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, I did not know. That was by Edna St. Vincent Millay. But here goes. She wrote, April comes like an idiot, babbling and strewing flowers. She wrote, I would blossom if I were a rose. And she also wrote, I will be the gladdest thing under the sun. I will touch 100 flowers and not pick one. But I thought I would end the show today with a touching little poem of Edna's that was published posthumously. It's a lovely little spring poem, and it's called If It Should Rain. And the American actress Kathleen Chalfant once said that her friend Sloane Shelton would repeat the last 3 lines of this poem before going to sleep at the end of particularly hard days. So pay attention to the last 3 lines. Anyway, here is If It Should Rain by Edna St. Vincent Millay. If it should rain, the sneezy moon said rain, then I shall hear it soon from shingles into gutters fall, and know of what concerns me all. The garden will be wet till noon. I may not walk. My temper leans to myths and legends, through the beans till they are dried, lest I should spread diseases they have never had. I hear the rain, it comes down straight. Now I can sleep. I need not wait to close the windows anywhere. Tomorrow, it may be, I might do things to set the whole world right. There's nothing I can do tonight. Well, that's it for today's show. Just remember that you have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for listeners of the show. The next time you're over at Facebook, just search for Daily Gardener Community, where you'd search for a friend and then request to join. And if you'd like more of The Daily Gardener, you can subscribe to the newsletter over at thedailygardener.org. And don't forget that you can also show your support for the show by using the Buy Me a Coffee link over at the website or in today's show notes. This is Jennifer Ebling. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.